I'm Hugh Stewart. This is News for Scotland on the Scotland Channel. Scottish Greyhound trainers have been accused of transporting dogs illegally while sending them to England to participate in races. An investigation by animal welfare activists has found that trainers are driving caged greyhounds without the correct licences on round trips of up to 10 hours to places as far afield as Wolverhampton in the West Midlands. Licences for transporting animals are issued by the Animal and Plant Health Agency, the APHA, a UK government body. Local authorities are tasked with ensuring animal transport complies with the regulations. There are 27 greyhound breeders and trainers in Scotland registered with the Greyhound Board of Great Britain. They keep their greyhounds in kennels in Scotland and race them at tracks elsewhere throughout the UK. APHA says a Type 2 licence is required when the journey for a greyhound exceeds 8 hours and there should be a 48-hour break before the next journey. Most Scotch trainers have a Type 1 licence, which is required for shorter journeys of up to 8 hours. But activists say that most round trips to England for racing take longer than 8 hours, and trainers must take into account the time greyhounds spend at the track to comply with the law. They also accused local authorities of being completely clueless about the rules, in their words, and claimed this lack of knowledge is deeply concerning, pointing out that councils are tasked with ensuring compliance for all animal transports in Scotland. The activist investigation follows a decision last month by the Welsh Government to prohibit greyhound racing altogether in Wales. The activists, who have requested anonymity, conducted a 4-month-long investigation focusing on trainers who travel to places such as Newcastle Greyhound Stadium or the Monmore Green Stadium in Wolverhampton. Critics argue that dogs are often seen as disposable commodities, moved around the country in cages for racing and then dumped on rehoming charities when they're no longer able to race. A round trip from Edinburgh to Wolverhampton would involve at least 10 hours travel for the greyhounds, as well as the time involved at the racetrack. The correct APHA licence would be the Type 2, which covers journeys of over 8 hours, the activist told us. But nearly all Scotch trainers have the Type 1 licence, so unless the trainer stayed in Wolverhampton for 48 hours before coming back to Scotland with the dogs, they would be breaking the law, says the activists. One Scottish trainer recently posted on social media that he had travelled to Monmore Green Stadium on a 10-hour round trip with 3 greyhounds. The activists raised a licence issue with 11 local authorities and said they discovered what they called a staggering lack of knowledge regarding animal transport law. They said, despite local authorities also having the power to advise against travel, they have allowed Scottish greyhound trainers to remain on the roads illegally for a number of months since we brought this to their attention. In late April, members of the Scottish Parliament will have their first opportunity to vote on Green MSP Mark Ruskell's members' bill to ban greyhound racing in Scotland altogether. The bill has received cross-party support, allowing it to progress to the stage in Parliament. A petition calling for a ban attracted 35,000 signatures. In 2023, there were 300 racing greyhounds who died in the UK, and over 4,000 injuries to dogs were recorded in 2022. Mark Ruskell says the greyhound racing industry has shown itself time and time again to be incapable of reform. With more shops closing, the rollout of bus gates and the imminent introduction of low emission zones have been described by some as the final nail in the coffin for Aberdeen city centre. But community group Our Union Street, formed a year ago to tackle plummeting footfall and shops closing in the Granite Mile, have vowed to continue the fight to save Aberdeen's main shopping street, despite a continuing cost of living crisis and even social media negativity. They say they are making headway in filling the empty shop units littering the Granite Mile by sprucing up unsightly buildings, and have launched a campaign to market Aberdeen as the place to be. The group now has around 400 volunteers. The aim of the group is to try to make the High Street a vibrant place for residents, visitors, and for traders. The group believes there is no reason why Aberdeen can't be like Berlin or other big European cities where people come for a weekend and enjoy a phenomenal amount of activities and leave the city thinking, wow. With the recent closure of Lush, Halifax, Cafe Nero and W.H. Smith, the group have been on a nationwide hunt for traders, coming up with different perks that could lure them into Aberdeen city centre. As a result, they have secured traders for 28 empty units out of a total of 53, with dozens new businesses putting their faith and money into Union Street, although some of these have yet to open. These include hospitality ventures like the newly opened 474 by Cup and German Doner Kebab. There's salons, jewellery stores and clothing outlets. Aberdeen City Council has also offered a £500,000 grant scheme to help traders make the move into the city, while the Scottish Government is offering 1 year free of rates for the new tenants. The group Our Union Street has also compiled a handy spreadsheet with a list of all the available units in the city centre to help business owners make the right choice. The group say it has been a collective effort and the awareness of opportunities has improved greatly. As a result, the group say Aberdeen now has dipped below the UK average for empty high street shops. The group has launched a website, ourunionstreet.com, with details of available shop units, how to volunteer, and details of existing businesses on the street. By this time next year, the group aims to bring the number of vacant properties down to 15. Plans for fixed subsea tunnel links for Yell and Unst have gained momentum as a result of the first launches from the Saxiford Space Station, the spaceport, expected to take place later this year. Sonar investigations are being commissioned as part of their plans for a project of subsea tunnels, which are being regarded as a major milestone in a project to replace ferries on routes like Blue Mill Sound, Yell Sound, Wallasey and Bressay. However, questions remain over how the tunnel construction is going to be funded. Unlike the Faroe Islands, which lie to the northwest of Shetland, Shetland as part of the UK has no tunnels, while the Faroes have a total of 19, the first of which was built in 1963. 4 of these are subsea tunnels, which have made inter-island travel in the Faroes much easier since they were constructed in the early 2000s, and the other 15 tunnels cut their way through the steep mountains in the centre of Faroe, and those date back to the 1960s. A report will be produced which makes recommendations for the seismic survey locations and will contribute to determining the alignment of the potential Shetland tunnels. Site visits are set to begin at the end of this month, with field work expected to take up to 3 months, followed by a report within 6 weeks of completion. The Unst and Yell Tunnel Action Groups, which have spearheaded efforts to advance the tunnel project, have successfully raised the necessary funds to commission the sonar and seismic investigations. Norwegian consultancy Norconsult will carry out the project thanks to financial contributions from local businesses, individuals and community supporters. Norconsult are described as the leading consultancy firm in this field, having undertaken projects of this kind throughout Scandinavia and also in the Faroes. The Yell and Unst action groups confirmed in 2023 that they would fundraise themselves for these surveys to be carried out for potential tunnels between the 2 islands, one from the Shetland mainland to Yell and another one from north of Yell to Unst. In December 24, the Scottish Government announced a £20 million grant to explore the creation of tunnels, flights or ferries between Orkney and Shetland, despite its overall budget being cut by the UK Government in England. The UK Government has been asked to help fund tunnels for the Northern Shetland Isles that would connect the mainland to the Saxiford Space Station, but Scottish Transport Secretary Fiona Hislop said large infrastructure spend on projects like tunnels would be far more easily funded if Scotland was independent. Instead of going to London, the money could be directly invested in Scotland instead. She went on to say, though, if we are going to do big infrastructure projects like subsea tunnels, having the capability of a state, as the Faroes relies on the Danish state to underwrite their tunnels, that actually is a positive argument for changing how we can fund our public services. In the Faroe Islands government, international banks and private companies have funded the construction of all the Faroe Islands tunnels, which are being paid back through tolls collected by number plate recognition as cars drive through them. The closure of a Scottish jail represents the opportunity of a lifetime, says a local community group. HMP Inverness, which opened over 120 years ago in the Crown area of the city, is to be replaced by the HMP Highland, which is being built at a cost of £209 million on a site near Inverness campus on the east side of the city. Community group Crown Connects is considering a possible takeover of the jail, one of Scotland's oldest prisons, as part of a potential community asset transfer, in order to create a community centre in one of the few places in the city that doesn't currently have one. A green spaces and community hub could be created at the prison to create a space where the community can come together, relax, meet each other and play sports. Parts of the High Prison, which opened in 1902, have a Category B listing, including parts of the High Red Sandstone boundary wall, recognising the historical and architectural importance. The Chapel A Hall, including the former laundry and kitchen, the B Hall and parts of the boundary wall, were listed as Category B by Historic Environment Scotland in 2017. The Kirkwall RNLI, the National Lifeboat Institution, will see a refit of its all-weather vessel, the Margaret Forster, this year as part of a programme by the charity to extend the lifespan of its Severn-class lifeboats. The boat will have her engines overhauled and a new state-of-the-art navigation system installed. The all-weather lifeboats have an expected lifespan of around 25 years. The Severn and Tamar class of all-weather boats will be replaced with fewer, more capable lifeboats over the next 15 years. Money previously raised for the Severn Life Extension project will contribute towards the refit of the Kirkwall's current Severn-class lifeboat. The Scottish Government has announced new investment for the Port of Montrose. The new strategically key site, Montrose Port Industrial Park, less than 2 miles from the port, will allow both new and existing companies to expand as part of Scotland's thriving renewables sector. The project costs £7.2 million and will be supported by a £3.2 million grant from Scottish Enterprise. Deputy First Minister Kate Forbes said Scotland's offshore wind sector is already creating significant opportunities, delivering jobs and attracting major investment across the country. The Scottish Government has made it clear that Scotland is open for business, and we are working closely with Scottish Enterprise and public sector partners to maximise investment and drive growth in the sector. Scottish Enterprise Chief Executive Adrian Gillespie said, "The expansion of Montrose Port is hugely important to providing new infrastructure and space to support the continued growth of the offshore wind sector." And Chief Executive of Montrose Port Authority, Tom Hutchison, said, "We are delighted that Scottish Enterprise recognises the potential of this project and supports our vision for sustainable growth. This development," he says, "reinforces Montrose's position at the forefront of Scotland's energy transition, driving innovation and playing a vital role in the offshore wind sector for years to come." The Scottish Government has committed about £500 million to developing our growing renewables sector, and Montrose Port Authority is the world's largest chain and anchor port and a key hub for transport, logistics and energy in Scotland's northeast coast. As a trust port, Montrose drives sustainability, supports economic growth and plays a vital role in Scotland's energy transition. A leading hub for renewable energy, Montrose has become a major operations and maintenance base for offshore wind. The port is a supply base for Scotland's largest offshore wind farm, Seagreen, and will be the base for a forthcoming Inch Cape wind project, which will begin construction later this year. Police Scotland may have to cut recruitment because of a UK Government hike in national insurance costs, which will cost the force here an extra £25 million. Police Scotland is also planning to close 29 police stations across Scotland as the result of cuts to the overall Scottish budget by the UK Government in England. The force here is facing a £200 million shortfall. Police Scotland has also had to pay out £3 million in claims from the public as well as to employment tribunal cases, it's been revealed. However, the biggest pressure is coming from increased costs brought about by the UK Government decisions and cuts forced on the Scottish Government by the UK Government. We understand that police forces in England, Wales and Northern Ireland can reclaim VAT, but the rules prevent Police Scotland from doing that. A report from 3 years after Police Scotland was set up showed the force paid out £76.5 million to London in VAT and was unable to reclaim that tax. ScotRail has cooked up an eco-friendly way to run trains using vegetable oil. The kitchen staple has replaced diesel on routes from Glasgow Central to Kilmarnock and from Dumfries to Carlisle in a trial due to last 12 weeks. If successful, all ScotRail's diesel locos will be adapted to run on low-emissions vegetable oil known as HVO. That's hydro-treated vegetable oil. ScotRail's head of sustainability, Paul Hansen, said the HVO has the potential to significantly lower ScotRail's carbon footprint while allowing the train operator to continue to use existing diesel trains. HVO is made from a waste product from farming and food production processes and can be used in existing engines without modifications. A national day of litter picking by Yes groups across Scotland is being planned for Saturday the 5th of April. More than 16 Yes groups will participate in the event, which is being coordinated by Yes Prestwick and supported by Believe in Scotland. Peter Ling of Yes Prestwick said that everyone taking part is hoping it'll be a good day for communities and a good optic for independence. Yes branded litter bags will be used during the event. A documentary on the Yes Prestwick litter picking group called Local Heroes will be available to view on the Scotland Channel from March the 27th. That winds up our stories for this week. Join us again on the Scotland Channel every Friday night from 7 p.m. Don't forget, once released, you can view all our shows anytime on the Scotland Channel. Support us by linking, sharing and subscribing to our YouTube page, thescotlandchannel.tv. Thanks for watching.